So today I am replacing the scrapers on my 74 Kombi. These are all basically deteriorated, got holes in them, letting in water, causing rust, not good. So the first thing to do is to remove the door card from your door. There's other videos which show how to do this, but essentially your handle has will have a plastic kind of covering around it. In the middle of the plastic cover there's probably going to be a little plastic insert which you can just pop out with a screwdriver to get to the screw which is in there, and let you take the whole plastic thing off. Your winder will have some kind of cover on it. This is what mine looks like, and I just again pops the plastic cover off with a screwdriver so I could get to the screw that's in there. So yours might look different, but probably you'll just pop it off and get to the screw. I'll have to take that handle off in a sec to keep doing what I'm doing. And then the door card itself basically just pops off. It's got little clips that clip into these tiny little holes around there, so essentially I just got a screwdriver kind of down in the door card and just gently kind of pop them off, not too difficult at all. I've got my hands taped up because inserting the scrapers can be let's say trying on my hands as well, so that's why I look a bit weird. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually just lower the glass out. So I've used the handle here just to lower the window down, and now I'm going to undo these two bolts and just lower the glass. So let's do that. So I just got my 10mm shifter and I'll just pop those bolts out. Okay, so now you can see I've got the glass kind of free. I've unbolted it from that and I can let it drop down. What I'm going to do is let it drop down to the bottom of the door and also scoot it along as far as I can to the back of the door. So my left, essentially you do that because you are trying to get the glass out of the way for when you are removing your quarter window. So drop it to the bottom and as far to the back of the door as you can. Okay, so now your quarter light's got to come out. I think other people online have taken the quarter light out with the old scrapers still in. I think it might be easier to pull the old scrapers out, so I think that's what I'm going to do. But firstly, up the top here, there's a screw up in here which holds in the top of the quarter light. So basically I just pulled down the felt. I've got a pair of pliers and just kind of pulled that down. I'll have to pull this out soon anyway. So Phillips head screwdriver to basically undo the top of this, and then down here in this hole here there is another 10mm nut. So I will get my my spanner in there, undo that, and then the job of removing the quarter light begins. So let's just do that. Water light is free and theoretically you can get it out. You can see that I can now kind of move it around a bit. The first barrier you'll probably encounter is that up the top in here it catches as you try and pull the top back. Basically the bit that you just took the screw out of, that little tab, hits as you try and pull it back, or at least it did on mine. So I just levered that tab down, so I'll just do that now so that I can get the top out. Okay, so now I've got the quarter light to a kind of the point where it's out. You can slide that in and out up the top there. Now down the bottom here, this pole goes down and is actually attached where you took that 10mm bolt out. So this is one of the fiddly bits, getting this out and apparently back in again, which I haven't yet done. And the one video I saw on YouTube where the guy seemed to do it quite easily was Woolly's Workshop. I recommend you have a look at that one too. But basically he made the point that this has to come back in this direction so that you clear everything down here. This bolt has to clear all the stuff down there, so you have to basically try and get this in this direction. And he mentions that, you know, that's tough because you've got your seals there. Yeah, because I am replacing my seals and these are the old ones, I'm just going to rip these out to make it easier for me to slide this along and then get it out. So here's the old scraper. There's little clips that hold it in. You'll find out later that they're an absolute bitch to get back in. But at the moment I'm just going along with a screwdriver. I've got a bit of tape on there just for a bit of protection, and I'm just kind of prying them whoosh, along as I go. Not too hard to get it off. Okay, so I have removed the inner scraper from my door, which is going to allow me to pull the quarter light, the bottom of the quarter light, in this direction. You might not be able to see, but I have now taped the door here, just put some masking tape there, and also over here. So this is a fiddly process, and there's rubbing on the door that might happen. So just tape up anything that you think is in danger and go slowly. The basic steps: the top comes back like I have done. When you've got it clear and the top comes back, you'll find that it can kind of come up inside the door, and that's how you extract it, on the inside, not the outside. And so from here it's just a case of, I'm going to try and pull this along into here so that the pole that's down here clears all the metal that's down in there. And once I've kind of got that in there, I should basically be able to just pull it up and out. I might not be able to film that for you. It's fiddly. I haven't tried to get it back in yet, and apparently that's very fiddly too. You've got to get it just in the right position. What I found on the other side when I did it was that the glass in the door was also preventing me from pulling this back, and I eventually found that I had to pull the glass toward me to basically get the quarter light into the gap between it. This side actually looks different. For some reason the glass is sitting way back towards the back, so it looks like I'm just going to be able to pull that forward and slide it up and out. So fingers crossed, the next thing you see is the door, is the quarter light extracted. So I've had success, which is fortunate. It's always good when you have a little win. So I can pretty much pull this out now. I'm in the right position. When you're doing it, like, this noticeably had to come back in this direction, so it was a matter of me looking down in here and, you know, clearing the glass out of the way. If you can take a scraper off, that'll help you get it back in here. I think once you get it back in here, the whole thing becomes a lot easier. So pulling the bottom backwards, and essentially what I guess seen on the other video, the Woolly's Workshop video, and my own experience, is that when you're getting it out correctly, it's just got a slight backward tilt. So it's not like your top is completely tilted, and it's not vertical, but it's just got a slight tilt like this one does. So hopefully I can show you the moment of glory here. And that has come out. Oops, my light just went off for some reason. So it is possible. The felt has to come out because basically the felt sits on top of part of the metal which is attached to your outside scraper. So yeah, you've got to pull this felt out, so I'll just do that, just rip it out. I find that the clips that hold the felt in sometimes come away and sometimes they stay in the channel, so you basically just have to pull them out so that you can put the new metal in behind it. So they just basically slide in one direction in, so I'll just get a screwdriver on and get these clips off before I remove the outer scraper. Yeah, so the outer scraper is just held in by clips like that. So again, it's just a case of going along with the screwdriver, I guess being gentle and just getting down there and then prying it free. Okay, now it's time to put the scrapers in. I'm going to put the inner scraper in first. Inner scraper is quite hard to get in. If you look on the web, you'll find people telling you that it's really hard and to go have a cup of tea. And I'm going to put it in first so that the outer scraper, so that I've got room, as much room as possible to make it as easy as possible. So it's a case of these little hooks need to go into little slots. I'm pointing to the slots for the outside scraper, so the inside scraper slots are kind of in towards me there. So you've just got to go along and slot them in. For whatever reason, the way these replacement scrapers are made, it's really hard to get those in. I'm going to use a flat chisel to basically just try and force them in. I don't really have any technique. I did the other side and it was a pain. The only thing I found was that if you just keep applying force, if you just keep trying, eventually for some reason they just go in. So no technique, just basically keep trying and they go in. Okay, so I've been going for about 15 minutes now and I've only managed to get 2 clips in. I'm using a chisel basically and just basically pulling it back towards me to try and force the clips into the slot. I haven't figured out any better way to do it. If anyone can figure out a better way to do this particular job, you'd probably be a hero of some kind, and please let us know in the comments. I did try putting a bit of WD-40 in the hole that the clip has to go in, not convinced that it did anything. So I'm going to go back and spend the next hour putting in another 8 clips or so. Okay, I'm nearly done. I think I did figure out maybe a way that helps with doing this. You'll see that the clip one side is flat and one side is kind of curved. I just found that you can actually push the flat side into the hole. Yes, maybe I should have thought of that earlier. Yes, I'm not a genius. But yeah, if you start out by getting the flat side into the hole, and then all you've got to do is try and reef the other side into its side of the hole. So that's my only possible tip. What else at this point? Earlier in the video you might have seen that I was wearing bits of tape on my fingers. That's just because I had my fingers down here when I was doing the other side quite a bit, and they were getting all kind of rubbed up against. Because I've done the inner scraper first on this side, it's not so bad, so that's good. And last tip is to leave the last clip out, because that is going to make life easier when we're putting the quarter light back in. So I'm going to leave the last clip out, put the quarter light back in and then do this last clip. Now it's time to put the outer scraper in, which is reasonably simple. It too has little clips that just clip into holes down in the door frame. These ones don't seem nearly as hard as the inner scraper, so I'll just pop that in now. Okay, it's now time to put the quarter light back in. So I'm going to put some WD-40 on the bottom of this to make it easier. And it's basically the reverse process of how you got it out. The quarter light has to come back in this direction to actually get in and out. So that's the reason for the WD-40, to help it slide in through the scrapers now. And basically I'm just going to try and drop it in through there like that, and then tilt the front forward. So fingers crossed this goes easily. Okay, so it looks like I've got this in without too much difficulty. Definitely a good idea to have the last clip of your inner scraper not in, to give yourself room. I also found that I had to just move the glass around inside the door, just kind of push it back out of the way. So just when you're doing it, have a look and see where your frame is going, and if it's bumping the glass, just try and get the glass out of the way. So hopefully I'll just be able to maneuver the top in now, and the next thing you'll see is an in-place quarter light. Okay, you might as well learn from my mistakes, and you might even get a laugh out of it. But basically I've destroyed my outer scraper up the top here by trying to force the quarter light in at the top, and the outer scraper, the aluminium trim attached to the outer scraper, was just not in the right position, so it's ruined. I'm going to have to buy a new one of those. So like the genius I am, I thought, oh, I'll go around the other side and maybe see what I can do on the other side. And the next stage I'm at with the other side is putting the quarter light back in. So let's go have a look at what happened there. So I was just getting the quarter light ready to put back in, and I noticed that I could probably use a bit of a scrape of the rust off it and maybe a bit of a penetrol. And my word of advice to you would be, when you're holding the quarter light, do it very carefully, because it basically just slipped right out of the frame, or the seal I should say, and that beautiful looking mess of shattered glass used to be my quarter light. So in the space of about 5 to 10 minutes, I've racked up having to purchase another outer scraper and a quarter light. So this is to be continued. Okay, so since you saw me last, I've ordered a replacement scraper to replace the one I destroyed, which has arrived. Don't know if Roy at the bus stop might have got a little chuckle out of sending two out in quick succession. I've had better luck with the second one. It's in now. I actually took the inner scraper out to put it in. For some reason I just couldn't get the outer scraper to sit in the right position with the inner scraper in. So I might revise my suggestion to put the inner scraper in first, and maybe put the outer scraper in first. Comments on that are welcome, but when I took the inner scraper back out and put the outer scraper in, everything just seemed to sit better. And fortunately I found when you go to put the inner scraper back in again, it's not nearly as hard the second time. Once you've bent the clips into the holes, I think they kind of have, you know, learned where they need to go, bent into whatever position. So fortunately I've now got my quarter light in with everything looking, you know, lovely in position, nothing broken. So now the next job is to stick my felt back in my felt channel. Okay, so I've got my felt kind of begun. I've got my clips in first. The clips are another fiddly bit of this job. I'm sure you'll discover that for yourself and you'll figure it out. But yes, they're another reason why this is a very fiddly, unenjoyable job, but largely my clips are in there waiting for my felt. To get the felt down through there, I definitely found a liberal spraying of WD-40 helped, and then basically just I found it slid in reasonably easily, so I should just be able to push this felt into place now, and I'm looking good for putting my window back in. Okay, so getting the felt channel back in is not that difficult. The clips are not maybe the best design thing in the world. They're a little bit of a pain. As you're putting your felt channel back in here, as I mentioned, a bit of WD-40 will help it slide into the door. You also want to be thinking about the position of your glass at this stage, because it's got to sit inside the felt channel. So maybe as you're putting the felt channel in, start to get the glass kind of more centralized and sitting in the channel. And I'm just using a scraper to basically stick it in there. I've got it behind the glass and I'm using it to kind of keep the glass kind of in a middle position. And I think that's going to work for me because my glass is starting to come through here. I've obviously been pushing it up and using this to kind of get it in position. So yeah, that's my next thing, is to try and get that glass back up through the scrapers, sitting in both felt channels. Okay, so I've got the glass through the scrapers, lifted up, everything seems in the right position. Bolt the glass back onto my regulator. The rest of it's fairly simple, putting it all back together, and I have to say I'm very, very pleased that I finally have one door done. And now I've got to go over and do the other one.